All right, I'm going to get started in the meantime. We are recording the session so that if anyone joins afterwards, we can always ask them to refer back to any information that was missed. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is well and keeping safe. Yeah, as you can see, I'm working from home. One of these things that becomes the norm nowadays. So excuse if there's any noise in the background, etc. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Andrew Tyler. I'm the Sales and Business Development Manager for GoodWe for Sub-Saharan Africa. On the call, I have my colleague, who I'm sure a few of you are aware who he is, David Hovenga, who's our Technical Manager for Sub-Saharan Africa. He will be in the background answering any questions that come up during the Q&A, as well as answering some further Q&As which might come at the end of the presentation. So the whole platform, or the whole idea behind this, was to just do short, meaningful presentations, nothing too boring or long-winded, 2 or 3 hours like we've seen in the past, something impactful, which is on one subject. So in this specific case, we are training on the EHB series, which a few of you are aware of already, but maybe some not, which is our new single-phase hybrid inverter, which fills quite a nice gap in the market. So looking forward to introducing that to you. As mentioned, of course, the Q&A box is available for any questions while I'm presenting. And then also we will share the presentations, etc. afterwards. As part of the GoodWe Pro Training Africa platform, we've also got another 2 webinars coming up. So I'd ask that you please do join that as well. We'd also do a quick 30, 45-minute type presentation. We don't want to go into too much detail on who GoodWe is. I guess you guys already know that. And then also, as mentioned, Wednesday will be on our HT series, which is our commercial inverter. And then on Friday, we will have a presentation just addressing some common sort of troubleshooting issues and solutions. We find, we have regular conversations with customers that are experiencing the same issues. So to try and alleviate that and provide a solution, we thought we'd address some, common issues that are experienced by installers on Friday. That's a session that David will do. And then on Wednesday, I will do that myself. So yeah, as mentioned, we will be firstly going into the introduction of the product as well as key features. We will also review the data sheet and look at approved battery options, specific to the EHB series. Then we will go into where to buy. We often get questions from installers and resellers in South Africa on where to buy the product, because there's many people reselling the product and they're not sure who are the main importers of it. And then lastly, we'll go into a Q&A session. Right, so here we have the EHB series. You can see it's a really attractive product in a clean white look. It's got a LED setup for all the information on the front screen. So in other words, there's no screen, just an LED display. And then on the bottom, which is the main feature of the product, is our connection box, which I'll go over shortly. So for those of you who don't know, this product is specific to the African region only. You'll notice on the website, it does mention that it says South Africa only in brackets. That does confuse a few people, but the idea is that it can only be sold by the South African team to their distribution partners or in each region or country. So this will be available in my region, which is Sub-Saharan Africa. But for now, of course, South Africa being our biggest market, we will, of course, see that being, launched there first. So as with all of our GoodWe products in the storage/hybrid range, this is a true hybrid product which intelligently controls the flow of energy. This is only if the smart meter and CT clamp is well connected in the system. We find, many a time we have these, issues, especially with the 3-phase products, like our ET series, where the energy meter or the CTs are, not connected correctly. And this, of course, leads to the system not being able to intelligently control power flow, whether it's exporting, importing, on which phase it's going, etc., etc. So again, just going over the basics on it. So in the daytime, the inverter generated PV power firstly supports the backup load. As a second priority, it will charge the battery. And if there's still excess power, it will export to the grid, if the grid allows. So that's, dependent on whether or not you've set export limitation to be on. More than likely you will have it on, but we've had some, scenarios where guys get approved for net metering in specific municipalities in South Africa and other countries. At night, the battery will discharge always to support the load. If the battery power is insufficient to support the load, the battery and the grid will support the load together. When the battery drops down to the max allowed discharge value, the grid will intervene to support the loads independently. This, of course, depends. The work mode plays a big role in this. So as you guys who have experience with GoodWe know, we've got general mode, which is your pure self-consumption mode, which I've discussed above. You have a backup mode, which is used for typical load shedding type scenarios where the customer can have PV connected to still, sort of benefit from the offsets of their utility bill. And then we've got economic mode as well, which, just to touch on quickly is when you have time of use tariffs, or else a customer wants to charge a battery between a specific period. That is quite popular in markets or countries where the power issues are extremely prevalent, where they never know when there's going to be load shedding. We're lucky in the sense that we at least get a heads up, I guess. So yeah, that's a brief introduction, as well as speaking about the work modes. So key features. The one thing that GoodWe's been missing from their, from their product range has always been a larger hybrid inverter in single phase. So we, know that the EF series, which has been our most popular and kind of defining product in South Africa, has become still sellable, still a good product, but of course doesn't fulfill that gap of the 5 to 10 kilowatt range, especially in single phase. So the whole idea was to develop a single phase that fits that purpose, but also has some additional features that suits a market like South Africa or Africa. So the key features to start off with, up to 4 MPPTs with a single string per MPPT. I think that is industry leading in the sense that that gives you a lot of flexibility. I mean, you could have two north-facing arrays and one east and one west, or you could have two east, two west, whatever it might be. This gives you a lot of flexibility, and definitely is a great selling point when it comes to looking or competing against the optimized type solutions that normally offer good shading benefits, etc. This will help you to design the system to not have to worry about that and still be cost effective. As you can see on the bottom of the device, you've got plug and play connectors, which is always a plus, because it means that you don't have to disconnect boxes, etc. to connect. This also has an external communication connector, which is this device over here. As you know, this is either the Wi-Fi or the LAN module that we offer. As standard, all products would come with Wi-Fi, because Wi-Fi is more easily accessible for the common household, rather than running a LAN cable. But the LAN option is available, and some of the distributors do carry a LAN module as well. This has up to a 50 amp battery charge or discharge. And keep in mind that this is a high voltage inverter, a high voltage battery inverter. So 50 amps is massive when you consider that you can connect up to almost 500 volts of battery to it. So 50 amps would be very small when looking at a 48 volt system. However, on a larger high voltage battery bank, you can get a nice amount of discharge from that. It is AFCI ready. This is arc fault current interruption. This is not a feature that is required in South Africa or Africa, as it were, but it is a requirement in countries like Germany. So this is a future-proof product should that ever come to us or be required by us. And of course, it can support rapid shutdown. It's got integrated DC and AC breakers to save time on cost and installation. So that's the biggest benefit of having this sort of mini distribution board, or DB board, as I would explain it. It's got your battery disconnect pre-installed, as well as your AC for backup and AC for grid type. So keep in mind, depending on the regulation in the country, sometimes you would require an external disconnect in any case, but it is nice to have a integrated one too. Then lastly, we've got an AC bypass switch integrated, which ensures backup supply if the inverter is ever out of service. Of course, we have a very high quality product that fails, very, very seldomly. However, we do find that, in South Africa, where you've got a massive up and coming market, having a bypass switch that's integrated makes it a lot easier. These are not easy to wire. I've seen this on many sites where they get the wiring wrong and the customer turns the bypass and the in goes into the out of the inverter, for example. These things happen. And then also you've got issues where, for example, on a site, the inverter wasn't installed correctly. And in the interim, while the installer has to get to the site to sort out the installation, the customer can just quickly switch the bypass and allow the inverter to be bypassed in that period. I think, in my opinion, it's always good practice to have a bypass switch already installed on a site. So this just takes away the cost and the complexity of having to include an external one. This is just a quick view on the connection terminals on the bottom. For those of you who are familiar with GoodWe products, you would be quite familiar with what this looks like on the bottom. But I thought it'd be good to just give you a nice overview of how the product looks. Point number one, we've got PV connectors. So as mentioned, these units offer up to 4 MPPT trackers. And you can see PV1, PV2, PV3, PV4. It's a single string per MPPT. Because that gives you more than enough flexibility to build a large enough PV array. You've also got your battery connectors, which are nice click-in connectors, which we find are becoming quite popular. Your communication modules, number 3. So you can see all inverters, I believe, from October 2020, I think it's September, October, have the new USB 5-pin type connector, which is quite nice. The key with this is that your inverter comes with a Bluetooth dongle as well, which allows you to set up and update firmware without having to rely on Wi-Fi. You've then got number 4, which is your BMS connector. As you know, for ease of installation, we have pre-integrated the connector in that goes to the battery. So that's the BMS cable that would go to your BMS port on your lithium-ion bank. 5 is your meter connector. So, again, we've made this quite easy by pre-installing the cable that allows you to then connect to the smart meter that's integrated, or rather provided in the box. And then number 6, dread connector is not important. It is a standard feature on a lot of our products, but not specific to South Africa. This is a requirement in a country like Australia for quality control on the utility side. So power quality control. So that can be ignored, but it is there. David says that, it's not something, he highly doubts that power quality requirement would ever come to South Africa. But anyway, it is there in case. We've got an external RS485 connector as well, if ever required. And then we've got the on-grid connector and the backup connector. So I often get questions regarding the on-grid connector. So that is your AC into the inverter. Your backup would be your backup circuits that run only when the inverter is in a load shedding mode, or where the circuits are being run on the backup side. Your on-grid is essentially the grid side of the inverter. Then going into the small DB board, distribution board that I mentioned. Number 1, we've got your DC isolator. On the left side of the unit. 2, you've got your bypass switch, which is on the right side of the unit, and specifically made in red. 3, you've got your DC breaker, or your battery breaker, as you would know. But again, it is always suggested to have an external one anyway, so you can disconnect in the event that the inverter is inaccessible. You've got your backup breaker, which would be your backup AC breaker. And then you've got your on-grid breaker, which would be essentially your AC in and AC out for the grid side of the inverter. Then just, a nice quick overview of the key features. And these, those of you who've used GoodWe in the past would be quite familiar with, these features, because this is what has defined GoodWe, since the first release of our hybrid products. So starting from the left, app control. I think in 2021 and going forward, I believe every single person has at least a smartphone with an app store in their pocket. And we find it quite beneficial to be able to set up the inverter as well as go through the various checks, etc. on our app. And the app, of course, depends on the inverter being installed. But for a product like the hybrid units, you would use the PV Master app. Two, we've got anti-reverse current function. So as more affectionately known in South Africa, export limitation. In many cases, this is a requirement in South Africa because we're not allowed to export power onto the grid. One thing that I always say is an advantage of GoodWe is that everything with our hybrid products is included in the box. So we don't have any products that you need to buy additionally in order to get, for example, export limitation. The inverter is supplied with the energy meter and CT clamp required for export limitation, as well as grid consumption monitoring, etc., in the box. So, it's an all-in-one box. There's no hidden costs or hidden products that you forget to buy, or whatever it might be. Then going to point 3. So, of course, where we have load shedding and you've got extremely critical loads, we do have UPS level switching on our inverters. So if the power does switch off, our inverter will switch over to the battery supply within 10 milliseconds. Once the grid fails, that is standard amongst UPS level devices, and is very much accepted in South Africa and Africa as a whole. And then, of course, we have BMS, integrated BMS function, so you can connect to lithium-ion batteries. A lot of guys ask us, can we use the GoodWe products with lead acid batteries or gel batteries, whatever you want to call it? Yes, but we don't suggest it, and it's not something that we can guarantee. So keep in mind that our inverter relies heavily on the BMS communication from the battery to tell the inverter its state of charge, its charge discharge currents, its health, etc., etc. And the whole idea is that without that communication, we cannot guarantee that the inverter will be able to give, it's exactly what we expect of it. All right, so that's the introduction of key features. Moving on to the data sheet and approved battery options. So I've put the data sheets on here and put a red highlight square around the features I wanted to discuss. So firstly, starting at the top, you can see that there's 4 units in this range. We've got a 5 kilowatt, a 6.5 kilowatt, an 8.6 kilowatt, and a 10 kilowatt. And each of these, the rating that I've said to you is the kilowatt rating. So there's no, requirements like with our 5 kilowatt being a 4.6. Highlighting the battery side. So you'll notice again, high voltage batteries. So it accepts a minimum battery voltage of 80 and a maximum of 495. And our max discharge and charge currents of 50 amps at the battery voltage provided above. So a lot of guys ask us why high voltage batteries. So it's definitely the future. In my opinion, it's the same argument of polycrystalline versus monocrystalline, as that argument was a very long-winded one. But with my experience in modules, we saw that the industry is, I think, 93% or 97% monocrystalline now. I believe that going with high voltage batteries will be the future, especially on larger systems. When you start to talk about a 10 kilowatt or an 8 kilowatt unit using 48 volt batteries, you start to talk about extremely large cable requirements when building a large enough bank to support the inverter's capacity. So that's why we go with high voltage. And you'll notice with the ET series, which is our 3-phase hybrid, you're also looking at high voltage batteries there because of the size of the inverter. Next is max PV input power. So you'll notice that these products are 50% DC oversizing capable. This is the same for our hybrids as well as the grid-tied inverter like our HT series, which I'll cover on Wednesday. So focusing in on the 10 kilowatt unit, you can see you can put up to 15 kilowatts of PV on. That's not for only oversizing. This is something that's important to also note, and to me, a game changer as far as considering building a system. When you look at the 15 kilowatts, it would be 10 kilowatts of AC power In other words, providing to the 10 kilowatt inverter load, as well as 5 kilowatts to charge the batteries or DC charging. And that's so important because if you have a load of 10 kilowatts running on the inverter at all times, even 8 kilowatts, you would have very little to charge your batteries for the evening self-consumption period. So this is the importance of having the ability to oversize as well as use that oversize. Then going on to the MPPT trackers. So as mentioned earlier, we have up to 4. So it's important to note that the 5 kilowatts is the only unit that has 3, but the 6.5, 8.6, and 10 kilowatts have 4 MPPTs. Then going down to the last point I wanted to make on this specific page or portion of the data sheet is the peak load. So the inverter can run a 12 kilowatt load, and I'm again focusing on the 10 kilowatts. So in other words, 120% of its AC output for a 60-second period. Which I think, I mean, yes, you get some very big houses in South Africa or in Africa. However, when you're looking at a single phase, you would find very little, a small amount of houses that require more than 10 to 12 kilowatts per phase, or in a single phase home. Right, then just going on to the second part of the data sheet or data sheet, as I'd always like to say is please refer to this data sheet. It is available on our website, and you can also email me at the end of the presentation to ask for it. But there's a lot more to go over on it, but I've just focused on a few to not spend hours and hours on this. Some, integrated features. So, as you would expect with the high quality of GoodWe products, starting from the bottom, we've got battery input reverse polarity protection, something extremely, extremely important. A lot of your cheaper inverters would end up actually blowing or getting damaged or whatever it might be when you have the wrong polarity. These things happen no matter how, high quality or experienced you are as an installer. These things do happen. We've also got output over voltage protection, backup output short protection, outputs over current protection, residual current monitoring, insulation resistance detection, PV input reverse polarity protection, same point that I made earlier, anti-islanding or export limitation, as you know, the AC and DC surge protection, we've got type 2 integrated, which is more than sufficient for residential homes. And then as you've seen in the previous slides, the DC and AC breakers, as well as the AC bypass switch. Right, then battery options. So with the battery options, because of high voltage being quite new, there's a few brands that have the option available. Some of the quite popular South African brands, that that produce lithium don't yet have a high voltage option available. But once they do, of course, we would like to get them compatible with the product too. So firstly, starting from the top, we've got BYD. Which is quite a premium, quite a well-known option. Their battery box premium HVM as well as their battery box premium HVS are compatible. Dynas, we've got their Tower T7 to T17, which is compatible. We've got our own battery storage option called the Lynx Home S, which is our high voltage battery, which is compatible. LG Chem, the Resu HV, Resu 10H Type R is compatible. And then lastly, also quite a popular option in South Africa is the Pylon Tech, the Force H1 and Force H2 high voltage batteries are compatible. What I would also like to say is please refer to the battery compatibility list, which is available for download from the GoodWe website. They call it the approved battery options list. It's important to always get the latest document because there is various changes happening on a sort of monthly basis. You need to look at also the exact model compatibilities. So for example, each battery might require a newer version of the firmware or an older because that's what it was tested on. It also looks at future editions. So we often have guys contacting us to get newer batteries approved. Of course, we do consider this, and if it is a product that would make sense, then we do add them to the list as well. So yeah, otherwise, if you're unsure, please do contact us, either myself or David or our service center to ask the question. But please feel free to review the list that's provided on the website, and download it on a monthly basis just to ensure you have the latest document. All right, then where to buy? So at this stage, specifically the EHB series in South Africa, we have the following distributors who have purchased and are in the process of receiving their units in the next, say, 4 weeks. In alphabetical order, of course, we've got RBC Solar, we've got Chronic Solar Energy, and we've got Rubicon Energy. RBC, I believe, has the 8.6 and the 10 kilowatt coming in. Chronic has the 5, the 6.5, the 8.6, and the 10 coming in. And then Rubicon has the 8.6 and the 10. If you already have relationships with any of our distribution partners on screen, please do get in contact with them. Otherwise, if you do not have a relationship with them yet, please do contact myself and I will get them in contact with you or put you in contact with the correct person to assist. Great. And then, yeah, moving on to Q&A. I'm not sure if there's been any questions yet. David? Are you there, David?
Yeah, no, I'm here.
Okay, cool, awesome. All right, so I see a question coming through. Okay, where do we get technical backup support?
So our technical support is through our service center. So you can, there's 2 ways to contact them. One way is to create a support ticket via our support website. So that is support.goodwe.com. So that's there you can go, you can create an account and you can log and track tickets. So if there's any problems, it's all recorded. In future, you can also reference back there. There are also self-help guides and all these kind of things there as well. So it's a nice place to go to get support. We do also have a support line number which you can call.
Okay. And then just to add in there, guys, I know there's been, you know, some frustration with the response times from the service center. Whenever there is load shedding, for about a week or 2 after that, the amount of tickets increases almost, you know, 3 or 4 times what we normally experience during the week. So just bear with us. If there is anything that is outstanding for a long period, please do get in contact with us or myself, and I will escalate it for you to David to take on. But yeah, just apologies if you have been waiting a while. They are working through the tickets as we speak, trying to move you know, through them. However, it is sometimes quite difficult to, you know, to keep up in these load shedding scenarios because there's a lot of installations that weren't done correctly, etc. So yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else.
Yeah, no, there's a lot
Cool.
of questions.
Lots of questions. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, so is this a heavy duty transformer based inverter? No. All our inverters are transformerless inverters.
All right, great.
Yeah, do we need to buy a separate BMS? So our inverters don't have BMSs. The BMS is on the battery side, so that will be based on the battery technology which you're using. So if you use BYD, Pylon Tech, depending on which model of battery you use, they will have a different BMS for those batteries. So you'll just have to check with your battery supplier. So technical training, yes, we will probably later on provide more in-depth technical training on this for sure.
I think also through the distributors, when a product is, you know, once the products have arrived, we will organize, you know, perhaps some hands-on training with the technical team of the distribution partner, as well as potentially, you know, inviting some specific guests. Obviously, COVID dependent, it might be online, it might be as a hands-on training, but we definitely want to, you know, ensure you guys are well equipped to install the product before you even install it.
And then does this inverter have NRS? All our devices are NRS certified before we sell them in South Africa. It might not be on the Cape Town list yet. I'm still waiting for feedback from the city of Cape Town, but we have provided them the documents for some while ago. So hopefully we'll get that on that list quite soon.
And the NRS documents are always available for download from our website. So if you go to the GoodWe.com website, go to downloads, scroll down, filter by product type, South Africa, and certificate, and you will have the NRS certificate available.
I just want to make sure it's not bolded. I'm not too sure what that refers to. The BMS, yeah. No.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
No, our devices are not self-assembly, so it's all about the batteries.
I can answer that next one.
Yeah.
Suleiman, why is GoodWe not exploring the vast solar market opportunity in Nigeria? I realize in the course of your presentation, your focus is entirely on the South African market. So look, 100%, we do actually have distribution partners in Nigeria, but we are open to exploring more opportunities with customers like yourselves. It is definitely a target market for us. So please don't think it's not reference. It's just at this stage, I mentioned the specific distributors that have stock of the units or are getting stock in. But if you are looking for a person to purchase GoodWe from in Nigeria, please do reach out to me. I'll share my email at the end of the presentation.
So do you have inverter trading policies? So unfortunately not. We don't sell directly to the market, to customers and that. So we don't have something like that, unfortunately.
If you're interested in something like that, though, please, reach out to the distribution partners. It could be something they might consider, but it is difficult because the warranty is normally based on the plant where the inverter is installed, and the inverter's warranty will start the day it is installed. So it might complicate things a bit, but it's definitely something to ask.
Yes, no. So if you have a battery backup system and there's load shedding, will the system be able to supply energy from the solar as well? No, you don't need separate sources. So it's an all-in-one full hybrid. So it will simultaneously use your solar as a first priority, and then the second priority will use batteries if there's insufficient solar. So like when there's a sudden load change, it'll discharge the batteries a bit while the solar ramps up, and then covers your loads and does charging simultaneously as well. So paralleling, unfortunately, no, they cannot be parallel at this time.
Yeah, I think that one, Rudolph's first question.
Yeah,
that's so. Rudolph, just as an interesting concept, we have had customers in the past, although complicated, and of course related to three-phase systems, where the customer does not have a three-phase load, such as an elevator or pump or whatever it might be. We've had customers that have used, for example, 3 ES inverters with 3 separate battery banks, 1 per phase. So we found that it's becoming quite a popular option to consider 3 of our 10 kilowatts, each running a separate phase. But what's nice is you could put a 5 kilowatts on phase 1, and it's 10 kilowatt on phase 2, and another 10 kilowatt on phase 3, for example. But of course, it doesn't parallel or talk to each other or run a 380 volt, 400 volts 3-phase system. But we will, that is something that is definitely in talks with our R&D team. They are looking at it, developing something, but we don't just want to release a run-of-the-mill solution that works off of the same platform a lot of the parallel inverters do in South Africa and Africa as a whole. We would love to build something that's new and unique and specific to GoodWe.
As in the last question we have, is GoodWe Plus training applicable to South Africa? So GoodWe Plus training, we are doing the international trainings. There's another one starting this week. Unfortunately, there are no benefits yet for South Africa. It will be coming to South Africa, the benefits and all of that for GoodWe Plus. Just at the moment, we haven't fully rolled it out yet, but it will be coming to South Africa in the near future. So you guys are more than welcome to attend the GoodWe Plus training so long. Already get certified as a GoodWe Plus installer, and then later on, when the benefits come to South Africa, then you'll automatically receive those.
think there's one more question, David.
Yeah, no. Sorry, regarding that, can the customers app, can they set the backup shortly? I'm not too sure what you mean by that. If you're referring to like an end user kind of style of app where it's limited for settings for the end users and things like that, unfortunately, it's not in the works at the moment to have a end user based app. So everything is just through the PV Master at the moment still. But the only thing that is in the works is more an installer-based application for remote configuration. So that is something that's a work in play in the background for remote configurations, like on these DSEMS app.
Yeah, and one thing I've also realized is that sometimes it's really great to have, your customer trained up correctly on the product, because, if a firmware update comes out or something and a setting changes, etc., until we have a remote configuration available, it is nice to be able to have your customer to just, restart the inverter or something like that. However, I do understand the challenge with, non-installer having access to certain features. So that is noted. It is something we could perhaps, consider. But as David mentioned, we should be able to shortly allow you to have remote configuration of the device, which would, forego any of those type of requirements.
Yeah. So it is on the SEMS app. There is limited settings, but we are opening that up, so there's a lot more for installers. And another question, is the digital certificate issued by GoodWe for every training? So the GoodWe Plus, there is a certificate. We provide it on request at the moment because it is done manually at the moment. So if you do it in the training and you require and you would like a certificate, you can just request after the training, and then we will produce a certificate for you. So generator integration, unfortunately, that is a difficult question. The problem is most generators on the market don't have a suitable power quality for the devices to synchronize. So the power quality of the generators generally don't conform to our grid standards. So there are some generators that will work. Even with our ES devices, we also don't support generators, but the correct size generators with the correct power quality to work. But as far as full integration, unfortunately, it's limited.
All right. So while we just waiting a minute or two for any additional questions, I'm just going to move on to the next slide so you guys can see my email address. As mentioned, please, do reach out. As mentioned, I am, on the sales and business development side. So, those type of queries I am the best person to answer to. But if there is anything that concerns you or any other questions, I'm happy to assist. Myself and David, are here to support you. I've got a little bit more time than David does, I think. He is extremely, extremely busy with all the queries and questions that you guys have. But we, of course, want you to continue to use the product and enjoy it the way it was meant to be. So, please do reach out if you have any questions. Just give it a few more seconds. But I think we've had quite a lot of questions, which I think has been very beneficial for the team. Right, we got one more question, Doc.
The max inverter voltage, are you referring to PV voltage, or battery voltage, AC voltage?
I can go back to the data sheet.
Yeah, everything's in the data sheet. So the PV voltage.
So PV voltage, 600.
Yeah, so operating range is up to 550, so it's very similar to our ES. But because we've got those 4 MPPTs, it gives you a lot of flexibility. So we have kept the operating range quite low. So we're not going up to 1,000 volt. because we've got those 4 MPPTs and the startup voltage is quite low. So essentially you can get away with efficiently 3 modules in most cases on an MPPT and still have it running quite well.
Then there's one more question from Vishan. Yes, Vishan. Yes. So this is something is definitely worth mentioning. So of course our products have built-in remote monitoring. So we use a platform called the SEMS portal. Please do log into the the website. Just Google SEMS portal, go into the website, and there's some demo sites to review and have a look at. But our inverters have a very good monitoring platform. Because we've developed it based on user feedback for many years. I think we have over 20,000, 22,000 sites online in South Africa alone. That's excluding the smaller amounts of installations in Africa as a whole. But the platform is quite nice in the sense that it works the same whether it's rather, the platform works with both our hybrid and our commercial inverters. So you as an installer have access to, your entire installation fleet without having to log in 6 or 7 different portals, which is really nice. So yeah, please have a look. Otherwise, we can do a demo for you if you would like. Thank you. Mervin, so yeah, correct. So remember that correct, 600 volts per MPPT. As David said, the operating is 80 to 550 because of the fact that we have 4 MPPTs. So there's no need to have it up to 1,000 volts in order to achieve the maximum PV input.
Yeah. So it's also something that quite often gets asked is it individual per MPPT or is it the total of all the MPPTs? So each MPPT is individual. So you can put 500 volts on every single MPPT, no problem.
All right. Rieta, thank you very much for the question. So please contact the distributors. I believe some had already imported them in, and some should be receiving in the next 4 weeks. But please contact any of them to confirm with them, because I know some distributors have already pre-sold their first batch. Because of the amount of demand there is for these units. So yeah, please do contact them. Otherwise, contact me and I can inform you of which of your preferred distributor has stock. Thank you.
I just see in the chat there's a question as well about the Wi-Fi modules. So yes, our Wi-Fi modules do work. So if there is any problems or you're experiencing any Wi-Fi problems, please contact the support team and they can assist you with it. We are aware of a few issues also related from the customer's network side, and then we can assist you to resolve any issues you have. So at the moment, we do have very stable working Wi-Fi once we've implemented any kind of issues.
Yeah, so please do.
There's a question for you as well, Andrew.
Cool. Rudolph, so please do contact us and I can put you in touch with who has a LAN module. I'll just have a look who has brought stock in. I don't have that information on my head at the moment, but there are some distributors who have some available at the moment. All right. I'm very glad that we had this webinar because there seem to be quite a lot of questions, which is great. Sure. No problem, Rudolph. Happy to support you on that. Please get in touch afterwards. All right. Okay, guys, I think... Oh, no, one more question. David, Ruan?
Yeah, string monitoring, for sure. All our devices that have individual MPPTs, but in this case, you'll have individual MPPT monitoring because there's only one string per MPPT, so there's no, but all that data will be available.
Yeah, and of course it's voltage and current. So, but it's very easy to tell, when a string's underperforming, when they're on the same roof and you're seeing different current or different voltages, whatever it might be. All right, I think let's stop it there, guys. I'd like to thank you on behalf of myself and David for joining us today. It's been great to have this platform to share information with you guys. I hope to see lots of the EHB series being installed by installers, and we look forward to receiving pictures of that. It's a very exciting product, something I'm very excited about too. I might even get one installed in my own house, hopefully. Um, yeah, thank you very much, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you guys on Wednesday. It will be awesome for you guys to join there, and we look forward to collaborating with you guys further. Thank you very much, and keep safe, and have a good morning further. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.